Good afternoon and welcome to today's webcast. Use Domo Insights to manage your healthcare organization. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us. We're pleased to present another in our ongoing series of continuing professional education webcasts to help companies and individuals plan for what's next. Our presentation will start in a few moments. Before we begin, here are a few things to keep in mind. You can customize how you both view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can also adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons, each relating to a different aspect of our session. You can download the group attendance sheet and a PDF copy of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask our presenter questions during the webcast by typing a question in the Q&A window below the slide view and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions during the presentation or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty during today's presentation, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. As a reminder, the presentation you're about to see isn't legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters from Moss Adams, Casey Fike, Senior Manager, and Loren Dan Herder, Managing Director. Casey has worked in consultancy and data analytics since 2004. With his data and advanced analytics experience, he has led companies in developing analytics strategies, utilizing data to achieve business objectives, implementing business model changes that reduce costs, developing continuous auditing processes, and architecting data warehouses. Loren is a firm leader of business intelligence and corporate performance management. He helps businesses improve their processes to become more efficient and make better decisions. And with that, Loren, I will turn it over to you to get us started.
Thank you, Emily. And thank you, everybody, so much for joining and taking a little bit of time out of your day to listen to us talk about information in healthcare and using Domo. We'll be covering these three different major groups here: information issues in healthcare that finance teams encounter, and then also how our clients are using Domo to really drive value. And then we'll close up with talking about increasing your agility and reducing costs kind of through the same processes. So to get this started, we'll talk about these information issues in healthcare that finance teams and even operational teams, for that matter, end up facing. And in healthcare, as you know, there's just a huge amount of data that is gathered and tracked. But what we'll do here is really start from kind of the top overall and drill into this a bit. And that is, with all of this information, how do you really get an engaged organization? And it's all around having this one comprehensive view that keeps everybody on the same page and highlights the things that are important. And that falls into these three categories here. First, just collecting information from the start. You don't want to have to spend a lot of time on these low value added tasks of just getting the information and getting it pulled together and put into a common place. You really want to automate that. With that automation, one, it makes it more timely, and it also then it reduces the cost of getting that and having data available. Timely distribution is another really important part of engaging the organization. Having information is really up to date and visible allows people to have ownership of numbers. And when people take ownership of what the numbers are and what the results are, that's where you get really good decision making and use of the data. And then use that information to really engage the organization in a unified way. It's also important to have that in an effective presentation. So focusing on, what is strategic, what is tactical, and having key measures that really emphasize those two pieces in their place, and choosing the presentations that communicate well. So there's a lot of focus them in our work around a way that makes your information communicate really well. So, Casey, I know you have a lot of experience in this area and some insights to share.
Yeah, not great experience. I'll caveat it with that, but I understand it's, healthcare data. It's a lot of pulling, Excel dumps, spreadsheet dumps, tying that data together. Maybe you have the ability to pull that yourself. Maybe you have to put in a request. But that just increases the time, it takes to pull data together, put it in a usable format, make good decisions, see where you've been, and then adjust on where you would like to go. I think that's just extremely challenging if you don't have a comprehensive platform that can ingest data, a data warehouse, if you will, right? And then the other piece I like to call out there is, the challenge around, the more people that are modifying that data, adjusting that data, doing a VLOOKUP, that increases the likelihood of somebody performing a fat finger mistake or, not joining the table together properly. That's where those numbers really truly start to fall down, and your end users lose confidence in those numbers if there's mistakes within them. Again, it's take the time away, as you mentioned, Loren. Reallocate your time from pulling the data together. Spend more time pulling that data automatically, driving more business value, through the use of automation. So let's try the next one. Just want to kind of talk through some reasons that organizations that we've worked with kind of run into an issue of around a lack of an analytics program. And I think every organization is interested in analytics, but I think here's a couple of issues that we've seen, and just to kind of talk through them, what they've run into and just kind of some thoughts behind them. And I think first couple there on just the business case and the cost seems out of reach. Those kind of, to me, go hand in hand, where it's how do we go back to our executive team and say, we want to invest the money, we want to invest the time. How do we define that business case? And again, we're worried that these, we've heard of implementations costing in the 6-7 figure range to implement a solution. That's definitely a challenge. We don't have IT resources. Maybe we're a smaller organization. We have, a help desk function. We might have some network administrators, but we don't have a deep IT bench that can build a data warehouse from scratch, build connectors to pull data in, and then build visualizations. It's a small team. Another one that we talk about or have heard is we're not sure really where to begin. Again, data is a very wide subject. It impacts all areas of the business. Where do we really want to start? And the other piece, again, kind of goes with that first bullet. It's how do we get the entire organization excited around and invested in an analytics program? Loren, any thoughts, any insight you want to add there?
Yeah, so when we hear these, there's a variety of different ones that we will hear from our clients. So, everybody's busy, you're constrained for resources. It's really what it comes down to is regardless of all that, there's still this need for information. There's still this need for insights. And this is where we have really found some great advantages with the Domo platform. It really addresses all of these and does it in a cost-effective way. So not only does it reduce the resource needs and kind of change those resource needs to something that's much closer to maybe a smaller organization or one where some of these challenges are in place, but it's that comprehensive platform that does kind of everything from gathering the data or acquiring the data, storing the data, securing the data, visualizing the data, and turning it into real information. And this is, a bit just to kind of compare and contrast what Casey was saying about spreadsheets and then an automated platform like Domo is there's, these kind of key areas that are super important for having your data available and put into information. And the first one there is just the speed of actionable insights, where if you're putting into spreadsheets, you get to the end of a period, it takes some time. If you're really on your game, least a few days or up to a few weeks to get it there and published out to the team. Whereas with an automated solution like Domo, what you're getting is that automated. So you're every day you're getting those updates, or in near real time you're getting those updates, and you can drive that with decision making. Just to put a little bit of reality spin on that, if you're to imagine getting information from spreadsheets and it's after the period has ended, then you can look at it, analyze it, but you really can't make a difference on what happened. And you're already partway into your next period. Whereas if you have it in real time, you're inside of that decision-making window, and you can make a change before the period ends. And if you think to the business value there, when you're able to make just a few good decisions through the year, there's real hard dollar impact to that. You'll find that you'll pay for one of these environments very, very quickly. So you get a real hard dollar return on investment. That's something that's a comprehensive package like this. Data management is another one where, spreadsheets, you have a lot of different versions, et cetera. Whereas with an automated solution like Domo, you end up with that. It organizes all of that for you. The ability to do drill down insights, not just following links, but truly drill into information and see further insights. And then probably most importantly around this communication we mentioned earlier is that you have that single source of truth, that organizational alignment on what is important, and it helps to align to those business goals. Yeah, and in terms of getting information, I know, Casey, you have a lot of experience behind all these different types of sources here.
Yeah, again, kind of gets back to those earlier slides that I was going over on just, hey, right now we're pulling data from spreadsheets. It's all manual. Again, just a similar, a tangent to that is we're pulling data from multiple different systems. We might be pulling from, a couple examples in there, our GL system. We might be pulling data in from some sort of, annual benchmark that we're doing. Again, very different data, but we want to bring those data sets together and compare and contrast how we're doing against kind of our peers. Or maybe we're pulling in medical records. That data set is going to be completely different than what my income statement looks like. Again, that all takes time to pull that data together and put it in a usable format. Whereas the platform with Domo, with what the platform can do in its back end to kind of automate that and build some kind of roll-up functionality, look-up functionality in the back end, that you're just ingesting those data sources, and then Domo's kind of doing its magic in the back end to put that data in a usable format and then get it in the hands of the end users, so then they can go out and make the decisions, understand where the business is going, where do we need to adjust, where do we need to kind of pull those financial operational levers, if you will, to get us to, to take our organization to the next level. So stepping into the next area, we're going to talk through just kind of how our clients are using Domo to drive business value. I think to start at the top, it's really, I think we all want to be a high-performing organization. What we've seen is all high-performing organizations are truly data-driven. They're using data that they've accumulated internally. They're using external data sources to kind of understand what are our competitors doing, how are we doing again compared to our competitors or peers, understanding those key metrics of where our business wants to go, and then those tactical metrics of where we need to adjust to kind of achieve those strategic metrics, Loren, that you mentioned earlier. Any thoughts, insight you want to add to this?
Yeah, I really like this graphic on the side here where it points out the really key things about the high-performing organization, and that is, high-performing organizations always have some kind of a plan in place on where they're going, so that, like you were mentioning, that strategic view. And then as they're performing, they're really doing that in a very focused way, and that's where the tactical views are coming into place to guide that performance. And then is pulling the people together in this comprehensive, unified view where they're engaged, and then all of that around communication. And so your data needs to communicate. So that triangle in the middle is saying, all of this is driven by data, and that's what really ties it all together, is to say your plan is giving a guide to your performance, which is informing your people to make decisions to do other plans, and it's that unified communication. Also do want to draw attention to kind of the second bullet there on the right-hand side, where it's just instrument panel for engagement. And this is one where, we often just throw out the term dashboard or a tactical dashboard. And to kind of put some emphasis on that, we like to call them instrument panels. So you can think about like driving down the road. You have a sense about how fast you're going, but you do glance down at your speedometer and you say like, okay, am I in the realm of where I think I'm going to be? Don't spend a lot of time there. It's a glance. So when you think about your tactical dashboards, you figure out like, what are those key measures that are really driving operations and driving quality and driving your services, and then putting those key measures on this instrument panels / tactical dashboard that gives great insights to that. And that kind of gets this next thing. It's like really focus on that effective communication. And that is really key to getting engagement with the organization. And just a few things here in terms of how do you make those dashboards / instrument panels really effective? And like Casey was mentioning earlier, separating that strategic and tactical views. So having a dashboard that's really talking about where is the organization, and from a trend perspective, which way is it trending? And even having that with some industry benchmarks to know how are you performing to your peers of similar comparability. Then with that, you'll have a plan or a goal of how do you want that trajectory to look going forward, and then how do you do that is your tactical view. So this is in real time, right when you're in that decision-making window and you're seeing how things are progressing. If there's something that needs to be addressed, you're able to do it, right away when it's fresh in everybody's mind. And that's where the tactical then ties together to strategic, is it's enabling you to measure what's important to make the strategic changes or the strategic performance that you're looking for. So in all of that, do want to acknowledge there's just a lot of information in healthcare, and it is all important, but some things are more important than others just in terms of what your particular strategic or tactical measures are, and they will change over time. So this is where we do like to have a discussion around keeping the K in KPI. So you really want to be careful that, of all this interesting information that's out there, and it's all this important, if you have too much, it tends to muddle the message. So really taking a careful look at what you're presenting, having people look at because they're busy, is, and making that instrument panel approach, kind of whittle it down to the things that are truly, truly key. And then you can thoroughly communicate a key metric through multiple views. So it's not like you have, a metric and it's just one dial. In case I know you have some experience in this, is to say, how do you take one thing and thoroughly tell the story with multiple dials?
Yeah, and this is kind of part of the turnkey, as the slide mentions, this turnkey solution, which Loren, I know you're going to talk about later. But this is part of our pre-built solution that we offer, where key metric, revenue for the organization. And what I really like about this is I can log in first thing in the day, understand where we are, how are we tracking, for that particular year, for that particular month, and then layer in data science with some of that forecasting, some of the light blue lines that you see there, taking our past performance and then forecasting for the future, right? Again, and as I mentioned, I can come in, look, how are we doing from a revenue perspective, understand where we are today, and then also see where do we think we're going to be 3 months from now, a year from now, based on how we've done. And again, it kind of gets back to that point of that strategic and tactical view, Loren, that you mentioned, where this is a good strategical view. From here, it's where do if I feel like I'm lagging, or if some of those, forecasting features say revenue is going to trend down and I want it to trend up, what are those tactical, views that we see underlying within these cards that I can then go in and see how do I need to adjust for my organization? And then again, to that last point, again, just the better insight, the look towards the future, I'm able to anticipate and have an answer in my head of those questions that maybe others in the organization are going to ask, to say, again, for this example, how do we increase revenue? And maybe it's diving down into different services we're offering. Are we lagging there? Are we strong in others? Whatever that may be. But again, single point, go in, look, and then adjust, all automated.
Yeah, so communicating or building a dashboard, an instrument panel that communicates really well is what's important. And so when you're working with these performance trends, there's a couple of things that are really good to keep in mind and to drive engagement. So the first two bullets here kind of go hand in hand. But one is, of course, really keeping what is key out in front of your departments and services. So with those performance measures, it is what you want to do is highlight one, expectations, where should they be, where are we at, and what needs to change, if anything. And then how can you keep good things going forward as well. But with that, you always need to have this balance to say, if you over-focus on one thing, it sometimes can be at the detriment of something else. So in healthcare in particular, it's really important that not only do you have your performance measures out there, but side by side with that, the outcome of what you're delivering in terms of patient experience, quality, and safety. And some of those software measures can be more difficult to get good hard data around, but it is such an important guide in terms of balancing your performance and how you're putting those offerings out there and setting up your KPIs. Another thing we find really good about, or really helpful around communication and building communication, is this concept of a 15-minute result review meeting. So what this is really in contrast is, having an hour-long regularly scheduled meeting where you're going to review, different results and talk about, how things are going. We have found it really effective to have just a 15-minute meeting. One, it's easier for people to attend. Just go in, cut it off right at 15 minutes, and just talk about what is the data saying, and what is it, and where is it going? What do we want to do about that? That turns it much more into that instrument panel. It's a glance. It's an organizational glance together to drive conversation and to build ownership in the numbers. So we kind of really recommend doing that on a regular basis and pulling the team together where people can make time for just that short meeting. Also, getting information as close as you can to the front line, so that it is the front line engaged. It's not just from a management perspective down, but having everybody right at that point of decision have the information at their fingertips to work with. And Casey, I know you have some insights and some work that you've done inside of measuring against benchmarks as well. Yeah.
A couple quick things here on benchmarks and just the concept that you hear in that first bullet, where the Domo platform comes with over 1,000 data connectors, right? This makes it very easy for you to connect to multiple data sources, whether that's a cloud-based application or that's a database server that's sitting in your server room on site. Domo has the ability to do that. They also have the ability to upload Excel files, which kind of segues nicely into this concept of just how do we, if we're getting an annual data set that I mentioned earlier of how my peers are doing, I'm able to ingest that data, apply my metrics of how we're doing on, just for one example here, net patient revenue per encounter. I'm able to get a real-time feel and understanding of how I'm doing against my peers based on this benchmarking study, benchmarking data that I've been able to upload into my Domo instance. Again, bringing total insight to the organization of how you're doing from a performance perspective, from a revenue perspective, again, any sort of data source that you may have, flat file, CSV, text file, Domo has a way to upload that and then apply your actuals against that. So it's a good kind of spot check benchmark, like we were talking about, to understand how am I doing in real time. And again, having that data source at my fingertips, and then having those metrics that I have built out on my Domo platform to, again, just get a feel in an automated, immediate fashion, as opposed to spending however many days, weeks trying to pull these data sets together, modify the data sets, and then pull in meaningful metrics. So we're going to just talk through how to increase agility and reduce costs with the use of the platform. Information agility is key. And I think, throughout this discussion, we've been talking about faster decision-making, automating the data intake process. Again, those are all kind of tied nicely into this, where we want a solution that's agile, easy to update, modify the way we're looking at our metrics, because your business will change over time. Services you offer may come and go. Data that is associated with those services will come and go as well. A solution like Domo, where it's easy to update the metrics, easy to pull data in an efficient manner, really keeps your analytics program agile. The second bullet there is data governance. We need to make sure that our data is secure. People that need to see it are able to see it. People that don't need to see it cannot see it. It needs to be, again, the Domo solution provides a pretty efficient, easy manner to limit access to data if a specific business unit doesn't need to see another business unit's revenue for a period, for example. And then also to that third bullet, we want to make sure, and Loren, you brought this up earlier with the front line, getting data and analytics to the front line. We want to make sure that we have a solution that our end users can engage with easily, really draw out those key metrics, understand where they are, right? Take the guesswork out of it, keep everybody really focused on how we're doing, and then set up that tactical approach to go adjust if need be. And then the last bullet, Loren, that's something you brought up earlier, but I really, really like is the return on this investment is going to be those handful of smart decisions you make throughout the year to adjust your business if those metrics are trending in an inopportune way. The next piece is, again, kind of earlier what we were talking about, but there are cost-effective solutions, Loren. I know you talk about this later, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But again, we do have a solution where it's a pre-built model. Again, I won't get into too much detail, but again, this is a good way if you're interested in analytics. We've talked about getting in. This is a good way to kind of dip your toe in the water, if you will, rather than a full-on implementation, your own instance, right? It's a good mix between those pre-built, that revenue card I showed earlier. There's a handful of other financial metrics that we've built out, in addition to kind of some of that benchmarking that we can kind of customize within the platform, again, to give you a good holistic feel of your organization. And to the last piece, Domo provides us the ability to do that in a variety of ways. Loren, I know I've kind of been chatting for a minute, but I think you have some good insights here as well, just kind of what we've been working on with our previous clients and just your past experience.
Yeah, thank you. So, yes, what this Domo platform gives you is really a way to comprehensively get, store, secure, and present your data. And as you're mentioning earlier, there's this turnkey solution. What we wanted to do is just give you a little bit of insight into just, what kind of costs are we talking about? So in round numbers here, you can get started into something that is, gives you good insights and specific to your business needs at that $15,000 a year to $30,000 a year. And then this is kind of a crawl, walk, run, where if you start at that level and you get good information, and as your needs change and you grow and you get much more engaged, you can go into your own license and grow even more capability, that starts around that $40,000 a year annually, plus some implementation cost. Other organizations where you're already kind of advanced in this data maturity, you can have custom solution that does require ongoing IT resources. But these first two here, it doesn't require all that IT infrastructure. So just some overviews there. And then there's this kind of this virtuous cycle you'll get into where if you have data, you can be responsive. And when you see that, you can be adaptable and go into, when you're adaptable, your teams can collaborate and be empowered and in control. But all of that starts at the beginning with just having the data to be responsive and to see what's happening there. So in conclusion, just a few key points here. One, just make sure things communicate really well. You're thinking about that dashboard perspective or the instrument panel perspective and keeping the K and KPI. So it's all about building that good communication. So really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining. And if you want to extend this conversation, we would be happy to talk with you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Loren and Casey, for a great presentation today. If you have questions for our presenters, again, you can reach out directly. I'll have that Q&A box open for another minute. If you wanted to stick one in there, we'll be doing our best to follow up with you after the webcast. And here is a link to an online survey where you can provide feedback for today's presentation. Please take a moment to complete this survey as your feedback is very important to us. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you'll join us again next time.